Hi, this is Shaheedah Hill with Getting Real About Real Estate. We're going to be talking about increasing your credit score. Let's start by talking about why credit scores are so important. Now, interest is the money you pay to borrow money. And ideally, if you do have to borrow money, you want the lowest interest rate possible. And lenders judge your risk level by your credit score. So, for example, somebody with a high credit score, and 850 is the highest credit score you can have. So, say they have an 800 credit score. They've shown that they pay back money, they probably pay on time, they pay off their debts. And so they are considered a low risk borrower. So their interest rates will be lower than somebody who's maybe in the 500s or 600s. They're showing that in the past, they may have had some problems paying things back, or maybe they didn't pay back at all. So they're considered a high risk borrower. And so in order for them to take that risk to lend you the money, they're going to charge you a higher interest rate. Now, ideally, you want, again, the lowest interest rate possible. So increasing your credit score should be a focus of a borrower if they intend to borrow money. So let's talk about what makes up a credit score. There are 5 areas, and I'm going to go over each one and tell you things you can do to increase your credit score in all of those areas. So number 1 is your payment history. Number 2 is amount owed. Number 3 is the length of your credit history. Number 4, new credit that you've taken out. And then number 5 is the mix of your credit history. So let's talk a little bit about each one. So the highest percentage of 35% of your credit score is made up of your payment history. Have you paid back as agreed? So your mortgage payment, your cable payment, your cell phone payment, any bills that you have you paid as agreed? Meaning you paid on the due date. And that's very important. So if you would like to increase your credit score, you need to start paying your bills on time. Paying late is not going to raise your credit score. So you want to start by paying all of your bills on time. If you can just do that, that's a big part of your credit score. And number 2 is the amount owed. So for the money that you have borrowed in the past, how much do you owe? And they would like to see that you are not up to the limit on your debt. So they want to see a good mix of available credit. They want to make sure you have some available credit. So let me give you an example. Say you have a credit card that has a $5,000 limit, but you have charged up to $4,800. So you're at like the 90 or higher percent on that credit card. That is a red flag to them that you're almost at your limit of your available credit. So you could help your credit score by paying down that debt as much as possible. So if you look at all of your debt, so everywhere you can borrow money, it could be your store credit cards, your Visa, your MasterCard, any credit cards that you have, then you want to look at them and say, okay, if I have $25,000 in available credit, I have $25,000 in credit, but I'm at $20,000 that I owe, that's very high. You want to try to get that as low as possible, definitely lower than 50%. So let me make it easier. You have $20,000 in credit, but you owe $10,000. So now you have only $50%. You have 50% available credit. They want to see as much available credit as possible. So you want to pay down as many of your bills as possible, showing that you have available credit. It'd be great if you had credit, but then nothing. You have zero balances on everything. Then that really looks good because you're showing them that you don't really need to borrow money, that you're secure financially and you don't need to borrow money. So that's one. Now, things like student loans and all of those things, make sure you're paying those on time. Even if they're in deferment or forbearance, they still look at that debt because they don't know when it's going to come out of deferment or forbearance. So those things all do count. They look at your total debt. So you want to make sure that you have all of those things taken care of and paid on time. The other one is length of credit history. You really can't do anything about this. This depends on your age or when you started borrowing money, but they want to see somebody that had some kind of a length, because then they don't have anything to judge you by. So say you are 20 years old and you got your first credit card at 19, so they only have 1 year to judge whether or not you are a low risk borrower, or somebody that's going to be responsible to pay their debt. So just make sure that you are doing everything on time from the first time you've ever borrowed anything or opened any kind of credit account. But length of credit history is about 15% of the entire score. But again, you can't do much about that. You don't want to go ahead and grow up too fast. So length of credit history, just make sure you're paying back. New credit. If you're about to buy a home or get a mortgage, it's essential that you do not open any new credit. Because when you open new credit, you're showing them again that you need money. You don't have your own funds, so you have to borrow and borrow, and that sends out red flags to them. So definitely not any major purchases. Don't buy a car. What is that? Most people, it's really cars that people buy. Don't open a whole bunch of new credit accounts like at the Home Depot or a Visa cards. They don't want to see a lot of new credit, because for them, so say you have to save your down payment. You're saving your down payment in cash in an account, but then you're opening up a Visa card. In their mind, they may think, okay, they really don't have any money. They're saving that money, but then they're charging on their new credit card to kind of balance it out. If they're going to lend you money, they want to make sure you are secure financially to pay them back. So no new credit, especially when you're trying to buy something. And then mix of credit. They want to see different types of credit and how you pay those back. So it could be a store card like a Macy's, or not many stores open anymore, but Macy's, maybe Target or something like that. Those are revolving store cards. Other thing might be a car loan, a mortgage maybe that you've had in the past. So all of those things are different types of credit and that's 10%, instead of you just have maybe one card that you have and it's only a credit card. So mix of credit is 10% of the total score. So again, the number one thing you can do to increase your credit score is to start paying your bills consistently on time. Now, if you've had some credit issues in the past, it's a great idea to go ahead and be knowledgeable about what's on your credit report. And federal law says that each credit bureau, Experian, TransUnion, Equifax, have to give each person a copy of their credit report for free every year. And if you go to annualcreditreport.com, they will allow you to download all of your credit reports from each credit bureau. And one of the things that's good about that is you can see, because sometimes there are inaccuracies on your credit report that are bringing your credit score down, things that you've paid off, maybe somebody's, you have a similar name to somebody, so some negative aspects on your credit report that's not even yours. A lot of things happen. So number one, also just awareness of what's on your credit report. If you see any errors on your credit report, you can dispute them right through that website, and the lender has 30 days, I believe, to respond to you. If they don't respond, it just gets taken off of your credit report. So you can go ahead and do things like that as well. Another tip is, if you say you're paying everything on time, you're doing everything you need to do, one way that can increase your credit score is to ask your credit cards to increase your balance. So for example, the example I gave before, you want as much available credit as possible. So say you have 2 credit cards and you haven't asked for an increase lately, you can ask one of your credit card holders or both of them to increase your credit line. So instead of, say you had a $10,000 balance and your credit limit was $12,000, you can ask them to increase your credit limit, so it makes it seem that you have more available credit. So if you ask each of your creditors to increase your credit limit, that will give you more available credit, and that can help your credit score as well. If you have any general questions, please put them in the comments. Like my YouTube page, or subscribe. Sorry, I'm getting Facebook and YouTube confused. If you could subscribe to my YouTube channel, I would greatly appreciate it. If you think this video will help someone, please share it with them. Thank you so much for joining me. This is Shaheedah Hill with Maximum One Realty Atlanta, excellence in buyer, seller, and community service. Thank you.